Stay informed, get educated, and feel empowered. Stay tuned where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Welcome to EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Need a personal integrity booster shot? Your prescription is right here. Tune in with Eddie Frederick every week. Information is power.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all.
You're listening to Eddie Frederick, where good values make great radio.
Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And it's such a plum-pleasing pleasure to be with you once more. I'm just trying to multitask here as we speak, but I'm sure everything will be all right. So we're not too worried at all. Anyhow, it's all good. So welcome to this 267th edition of EDDIE-FICATION. Folks, imagine we've crossed the threshold of the middle of the 5th month of 2025. Could you imagine that? Racing on to the summer vacation for all our students. Of course, catching up with the tropical summer festivals before arriving at the beginning of the new school year and on to Christmas and New Year again before you know it. Why the race though, we may ask. But you see, time waits on no man. And oh, how it really flies. Yet for all, we have so many people still trapped in the mindset of backwardness, allowing their end of life to meet them in the same mental construct as when they were born, and for others to have ended with totally deteriorated minds altogether. What a pity. And we seem to have people here who just love where they are. They've normalized being dunce and dotish, and they just love it. But then again, they don't know better. Que pena, as the Spanish would say, or even que lastima. What a pity. Folks, as soon as you come into the room today, please remember to share, comment, like, love, interact as you usually do. In fact, if you haven't seen, last week I met some people out when I was out and about, and they were telling me, well, you know, nobody tagged me. I didn't get notification. It's true, I look at it after, but hello, you also have a responsibility. You know who's usually in the room. You run banters with them with your comments. Come on, tag them, remind them that we're here. So let's get a move on here today, folks. Our angel number for today, of course, is 267. A combination of the energies and vibrations of the numbers 2, 6, and 7. In numerology, the number 2 represents partnership and balance. The number 6 relates to love and nurturing. And of course, the number 7, which is usually a very lucky number, represents spiritual awakening and enlightenment. Overall, angel number 267 suggests that your angels are working with you to help you develop a deeper spiritual connection with yourself and, of course, the world around you. Not religious connection, but something far more important, spiritual connection. That connection with your inner, higher consciousness. That's what spirituality speaks to. So, our topic for today, democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. You see, this is something I have been saying for eons now. And, it is now more so pronounced than ever, as many of our people become lazier and lazier to remove their capacity to think from the fixed state that it is in to the current and revolving state that it deserves in order for them to grow and blossom. Folks, we cannot grow and blossom if we refuse to change, if we refuse to accept new thinking. If everything that is thrown at us, we see it as a problem and not as a challenge to overcome. The first time I heard this saying, democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent, was from one of our local legal icons, the late Derek Knight, QC at the time. He was a brilliant mind whose brightness was sharpened by his wealth of experience and, of course, his ability to pay attention at every turn. In my countless interactions with him, I recall him repeating and repeating the need to pay attention. He was a very good teacher whose advocacy I can never forget, for it screamed wisdom in the strictest sense of the word. Folks, I have understood back then why democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. And more so now, when we all can witness, for instance, the widespread ignorance all around us, in spite of all that we are privy to, on account of how available technology makes knowledge available to us. Folks, because democracy relies on the idea that citizens can make informed decisions about their leaders, about their laws, and about their policies, it could only presuppose its participants are intelligent indeed. as we ought to be focused on feeding our best interests as individuals and as a collective. But we cannot do that, folks, if we refuse to pay attention. You know, Voltaire said, "There is none so blind as he who would not see." You cannot see the truth, and because it is not something you agree with, you ignore it. It is still the truth. The foundational principles of democracy, like voting, debate, active participation, require that each individual understand issues. Citizens must grasp the basic facts and implications of policies, of laws, and social issues. Paying attention helps. Trust me. What about critically evaluating information? They should be able to distinguish between credible information and misinformation. Paying attention helps. Trust me. Folks, the other day I saw two things pop up on my social media feed. And I looked at them. And just being able to think critically, understand issues, put AI in the mix, I became doubtful. 25 minutes later, I saw a note from the authorities with those same two things that came up on the feed. Fake. What does that say? But you know, there are lots of other people who ran with those two things, pelting them like crazy. There was a particular person I had to call and say, "Hey, I really credit you with a little bit more ability to critically evaluate and think. You need to stop being so quick to share nonsense. Couldn't you think that something was wrong with that?" Yeah, you're right, you're right. Folks, we have to watch that. You see, we also have to make rational choices. Voters must weigh options and choose what best aligns with their values and the common good. Hello? Paying attention helps. Trust me. We have to participate responsibly. Engagement in civic duties, voting, protesting, serving on juries, assumes participants can contribute constructively. Again, paying attention helps. Trust me. You see, without a generally informed and even rational electorate, democracy risks devolving into populism, manipulation by rabble-rousers or even cons, leading to ineffective governance, like we have all witnessed during the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part, where lawlessness and total dishonesty reigned supreme. Folks, we should never ever venture to go back where we have these dimwits and these lolly drain residents offering themselves for leadership. They're still around the precincts, but we should put them in their place next election. Section them completely. Let them just go and dwell in the lolly drain by themselves. We should never let lolly drain mentalities lead us ever again. I am sure as day that you would like me to briefly explain how democratic systems try to account for the reality that not all participants are equally informed. You see, folks, the Westminster-style democracy, as practiced in the UK, has had mixed success in Caribbean nations. While it provides a foundation of parliamentary governance, its suitability for the Caribbean context is debatable due to several factors. Let's just look at a few advantages. Familiar framework. Caribbean nations, as former British colonies, have historical familiarity with the Westminster model, making it somewhat easier to adopt. Stable institutions. The model offers clear structures, executive, legislature, and judiciary, which can support rule of law and even accountability. Adaptability. Caribbean nations would do well to further modify the system to suit local contexts, such as adopting republican status while retaining some relevant parliamentary features. But let us just look at some disadvantages. Colonial legacy. The system often retains symbols, practices, and hierarchies, reflecting what? Colonial rule, which have proved not to align with Caribbean identities and values. But let's just look at majority rule issues. The winner takes all nature can marginalize minority voices, creating political polarization and weak to destructive and obstructive opposition. What about personality politics? In smaller Caribbean societies, Westminster style can foster personality-driven politics rather than issue-based governance. But we ain't even talk about weak accountability yet. You see, the fusion of executive and legislative branches can lead to executive dominance, as we have seen since independence, reducing checks and balances. Why, therefore, do Caribbean nations, in the main, seem to love the one-man, one-vote segment of Westminster-style democracy, and not the other areas which are dependent on integrity and decency in public life? You see, Caribbean nationals often emphasize the one-man, one-vote aspect of Westminster-style democracy because it is the most direct and personal form of participation they experience. Voting is a visible, empowering act where citizens feel they directly influence leadership. However, the broader principles of integrity and decency in public life, I dare say, though critical, are less tangible and are often undermined by several factors. Historical distrust. You see, colonial histories fostered skepticism toward authority figures and even institutions, making many citizens view politics as inherently corrupt when one thinks of what the colonials took power and did to their subjects, our forefathers. You see, weak institutions, while elections are emphasized, we have to understand that institutions meant to enforce integrity, like anti-corruption agencies or parliamentary ethics committees, are often underfunded, politicized, and even just plain ineffective. Better they don't exist. Because you and I know during 95 to 2022, for the most part, those things were mangled, mashed up by a characterless individual who groped the corridors of power, maintaining that he must be in power till he dead. So it was in his interest to mash up all these things. What about cultural norms? In small, tightly knit societies, personal relationships and patronage often outweigh principles of integrity. Politicians may be judged more by personal loyalty than by ethical conduct. So much so, people support who they like rather than what is right for them. Public apathy. Many citizens believe that dishonesty in politics is inevitable, leading to resignation rather than outrage over unethical behavior. And the very few of us who are outraged and vocal with our outrage are ostracized by the victims of these crooks and thieves. And they can't see that. You see, we saw that for the entire period of 95 to 2022, for the most part, with the societal dregs and their mangled followers, who, of course, are people once elected to office, today projecting their sins on their replacement with the rarest form of boldness. What about media and civic education deficits? limited media freedom and competence, or even a focus on sensationalism rather than investigative journalism means public scrutiny of misconduct became very weak, to the point where you could even be correct to call it non-existent. You see, being loyal to dishonest politicians caused some to become mouthpieces and even pens for the projections of those whom they owe their loyalty, instead of actually standing in the gap to hold all politicians accountable. Additionally, civic education may not sufficiently emphasize the importance of integrity. In our very case here in Grenada, civic education is totally absent, non-existent, that is. You see, for the greatness in each and every Grenadian to be allowed to surface and flourish, each and every one of us needs to first appreciate that Grenada is a great place indeed. Democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. And I'm sure you understand where this program is going today. Let's take a little break and we'll come right back with some more.
Want to stay informed, get educated, and feel empowered? Stay tuned, where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during EDDIE-FICATION are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
You're tuned to Eddie Frederick, where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
All right. So, folks, welcome back. And for those of you just joining, I'd like to thank you very much for coming into the room today. It's a plum-pleasing pleasure to have you. Just do the honorable thing, share, comment, like. Let's be very interactive here today, because this is a very important subject. We hearing all sorts of empty heads talking, participating in democracy, but I am a firm believer in our topic today. Democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. We really and truly have to educate our people first for us to have a successful democracy. Otherwise, we're spinning top in mud, because all we are seeing on social media and wherever, when you're having a personal conversation, all we are exposed to is nothing but a plethora of dunceness, total dunceness, people just jumping to conclusions without being able to critically think, to analyze, to process. The thing is annoying. But yet for all, they could vote. And you and I know voting has become transactional now. A man give you a vote and he expects you to mine him for the 5 years. He don't care how many demands he make on you. And as soon as you say no once, he come in for your jugular, because that vote is what bring you into office, as though it's his vote alone that brought you into office. So folks, we have to watch that, because that is dangerous. The greater good will never, ever be served when we have a large swath of people transacting their votes in this kind of way. Folks, welcome back. I would like to suggest practical ways our region can and must strengthen the focus on integrity and decency in public life through a multi-level approach, targeting, of course, both institutions and cultural norms. Institutional reform, that is key. Independent anti-corruption bodies. And we must really and truly establish these things properly. We have to establish or strengthen independent anti-corruption agencies with investigative and even prosecutorial powers. You'd be surprised to know Jamaica's Integrity Commission is one such. They make no joke up there. We need to ensure they have secure funding so that government can't starve them out and all that nonsense. It must be sacrosanct and free from political influence, and are mandated to publish annual reports. This could help clear the need for inferiors among us to pop up as advocates and even activists and even analysts, offering their 2 cents in manners that reflect their innate jealousy, envy, and malice towards decent citizens making a genuine contribution, while throwing a blind eye towards the main offenders of all the norms of true and genuine democracy. We need to set clear codes of conduct for public officials, develop and enforce a code of conduct for ministers, parliamentarians, and even public officers. Make violations publicly known, with penalties ranging from reprimands to charge and trial, and of course, to dismissal altogether. What about asset declaration and verification? We need to require all elected officials and senior public officers to declare their assets, which are verified by an independent body, not friends. Make declarations accessible to the public for transparency. What about transparent procurement systems? Adopt digital procurement platforms for government contracts, ensuring fair and competitive bidding. Publicize all awarded contracts and the criteria used for selection. Educational and cultural initiatives. But you see, civic education in schools, that is a must. Integrate integrity and ethics education into schools' curriculum, like a Youth for Democracy program, for instance. Use real-world case studies of ethical and unethical leadership to encourage critical thinking. What about media campaigns? Partner with media houses for continuous public awareness campaigns on the importance of integrity. Showcase integrity champions, public servants, or community leaders who demonstrate ethical behavior. Community accountability fora. We're saying here, host regular town hall meetings where citizens can question elected representatives. Create citizen integrity councils where local residents can report on ethical behavior. We need to strengthen civil society, support for watchdog organizations, provide funding and legal protection for independent civil society groups that monitor public governance, encourage whistleblower protections for those who expose corruption, youth empowerment programs, We need to establish youth councils that monitor government policies and hold leaders accountable, not young leaders in training to follow the pattern of old thieves, crooks, dishonorable men and dishonorable women. Not that kind of youth councils, not them kind of youth programs. No. Create recognition programs for young leaders who demonstrate ethical leadership while obeying rules of engagement. What about legal reforms? Enhanced penalties for corruption. Introduce mandatory prison sentences for serious corruption offenses by public officials. And have the will to follow through and jail all criminally wanting cons. Implement lifetime bans from public office for those convicted of major corruption crimes. But we also have to have whistleblower protection laws, strengthen legal protections for individuals who report corruption, ensuring they are protected from retaliation. What about judicial integrity? Strengthen oversight of judges and magistrates to ensure impartial and corruption-free judiciary processes. We need to promote a culture of accountability, folks. What about annual integrity audits? Mandate annual reviews of government ministries and agencies by an independent body to assess compliance with integrity standards. Public pledges of integrity. Require elected officials to sign a public pledge of ethical conduct upon assuming office, which is displayed in government buildings. What about cultural campaigns? Folks, we need to use music, theater, and social media to promote values like honesty, respect, and public service. Partner with influencers and artists to spread the message. We need to ask this question, folks. Why do Caribbean people seem to always seek to elect dishonest degenerates among its leaders, and yet get upset when they display dishonesty and low-down behavior in public office? I told you this thing before. You look at people who were in government. They are now out of government. When you see them, they look like, what shall I have for supper? They look like vagrants. But that is how they looked before. So how come we went line up and go and vote for these kind of people? What did we expect? How could we expect a degenerate to display honesty and great behavior in public office when that degenerate is known to be dishonest and is only capable of low-down behavior? Folks, we have to pay attention. And we have to stop being these surface people. I see people that people are commending from time to time, and I'm like, what's wrong with these people? People are just surface lookers. They look at somebody, you dress well, you look good, and oh, that's a good man. This time now, this man is an old thief, This man ain't good for nothing, He just dressed up. And people know that among you shallow, so all they're doing is dressing up, glossing over, and making you buy them wholesale. Folks, we have to take our time. We have to start understanding the importance of being able to process, analyze, and critically think. You see, the incidence of Caribbean people electing dishonest and unethical leaders has increased exponentially to the point where it seems those two qualities appear to be paramount prerequisite qualifications. This may be due to a complex mix of social, cultural, and systemic factors. Personality over principles. You see, charismatic leaders who are relatable or offer personal favors often attract votes, even when their integrity is questionable. Voters may prioritize personal connections or community ties over ethical conduct and end up eating the bread the devil need in return. What about patronage politics? Many Caribbean societies have a tradition of patronage, where politicians are expected to provide direct benefits, jobs, favors, or even financial help in exchange for votes and subsequent loyalty. This fosters a culture where integrity is nowhere in the picture, as personal gain becomes right up there with oxygen. You see, mistrust of clean politicians is another aspect. Voters may distrust those who claim to be honest, assuming all politicians are corrupt, but prefer those who at least deliver tangible benefits. Folks, we heard several times during 1995 to 2022 period, for the most part, yes, we know of their corrupt and dishonest ways, but they don't share with us. Isn't that totally disgusting? And then we go out and stain we finger to vote for that dishonest nastiness on the basis that they don't share with us. Rubbish. What about limited options? Voters feel they are forced to choose between the lesser of two evils in a political system dominated by two major parties. But short-term thinking is another area that we have to be concerned about. Economic hardships make voters more focused on immediate benefits, like job promises or even cash gifts, than on long-term ethical governance that will give you all that you're looking for a long term, for the long term. Lack of accountability. Even when dishonest politicians are exposed, weak legal frameworks or even political patronage protect them, leading to frustration but no real consequences. Media normalization. Scandals become so frequent that unethical behavior is normalized and citizens become desensitized, swinging between cynicism and outrage. Folks, we need to watch that. You have people now telling you, I like that man, boy, that man's smart. This time now the man is a smart thief, you know. They look at all that he stole without being caught, without being prosecuted. And they look at the spoils and they say, whoa, that man's smart, boy. I want to be just like he. Not realizing if you are going to be just like he, you have to be a thief too. Not smart, a thief. You just ain't get caught yet. What they say? 99 days for the thief. 1 for the watchman. You see, for the greatness in each and every Grenadian to be allowed to surface and flourish, each and every one of us needs to first appreciate that Grenada is really and truly a great place. And we must cherish Grenada enough to stop electing these dirtinesses, these goons to office. You see why democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent? Let's take another break and we'll come right back with some more.
Want to stay informed, get educated, and feel empowered? Stay tuned, where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
You're tuned to Eddie Frederick, where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful. And welcome back. For those of you just joining, you're late. That's all right. It's better late than dead on time. So we're happy to have you. Just do the honorable thing. Share, share, share. Why does active self-development prepare one to actively participate in democracy? You see, active self-development must prepare you to actively participate in the democratic process, because it actually cultivates in you the skills, the knowledge, and of course the mindset necessary for meaningful engagement. You see, critical thinking, folks, don't mess with that. And we have a lot of people here who just not capable of critical thinking. Folks, try some self-development. Self-development often involves learning to analyze information, question assumptions, and make reasoned decisions, essential for understanding complex political issues. What about informed decision-making? You see, continuous learning, reading, attending seminars, engaging in discussions, surfing the net for the right stuff, encouraging the right stuff to come into your news feeds on social media. Those things help you, folks. They help you. They keep you as citizens informed about current affairs, laws, and rights, making your votes and opinions more meaningful. What about communication skills? Developing the ability to articulate thoughts clearly. Those things enable you to participate in debates, question leaders, and advocate for your own beliefs. Those things give you a lot more intellect, so that when you talk, you make sense, rather than you like what you like and you're done with that. But how you could like what you like and you're done with that, but you don't know an alternative, and the alternative could be better? Emotional intelligence, understanding oneself and managing emotions. They help citizens engage respectfully in political discourse, avoiding destructive polarization. Folks, we have a situation in this country. After that last regime, headed by that old nastiness for so long, and you people continue to go first, you go second, you go third, you almost go fifth and sixth, helping of that decrepit nonsense. You don't expect the country, thank God, we end up totally decimated. But if we had only given that man one more term, we'd have done. Because that man has nothing to offer. Could you imagine at this age, close to 80, still you hearing talk about him still thinking of coming back? What kind of man is that? Where do you get that man from? Personal responsibility, folks. Self-development fosters a sense of accountability, making citizens more likely to uphold democratic values like honesty, respect, fairness, and expect the same from their leaders. Civic awareness. It encourages individuals to understand their role in society, to recognize their rights and responsibilities, and of course, appreciate the impact of their actions on the democratic process. This level of awareness would reduce the nonsensical comments that we see prevailing either as written or spoken feedback in our society, which often attract the scorn of the intelligent. Would an illiterate person be able to adequately participate in democracy? Folks, work with me. An illiterate person can participate in democracy. Oh yes, they're known to. We have a lot of them in Grenada, and they do, and they vote early and go about their business. But their ability to do so effectively is significantly retarded and limited. Democracy requires informed decision making, if you are literate, that's a key tool for accessing, understanding, and critically evaluating information. So how illiteracy limits democratic participation? Let's look at these few factors here. Limited access to information. They cannot easily read newspapers, manifestos, laws, or voter information guides. So what? That is precisely why 2 referenda failed miserably among us, because that process requires literacy to be effectively taken advantage of. Folks, as long as our people are dimwits in the main, having been mangled by that old nastiness, Tropical Trump and Satan's grandson, from 95 to 2022, for the most part, do not expect any referendum to succeed in this country, because it's not plain heart, star, house they're going to vote for. They have to read. And that process will intimidate them. So as long as the people cannot read and write in the main, and understand, of course, what they read and write, don't expect any referendum to succeed. You're wasting time. What about dependence on others? They may rely on family, friends, or even politicians for information, opening up themselves to what? Total manipulation. Reduce critical thinking, of course. Without reading skills, it is harder to compare perspectives or even recognize misinformation, more so now in the age of AI. What about restricted civic engagement? Participating in public discussions, petitions, or even written communication with representatives becomes challenging to impossible. But illiterate citizens can still participate through oral communication, listening to the right radio programs, attending to the right town hall meetings, and engaging in the right discussions. You know, they're saying the right town hall meetings, the right discussions. But do they have the spirit of discernment to know where the right discussions are, where the right radio programs are, where the right town hall meetings are? Or are they none the wiser, and they're just opening up themselves for their perpetual diet of manipulation? You see, visual media, watching the right television programs or video presentations, the right televised debates, or using pictorial voter guides. You see, community leaders gaining insights from trusted, knowledgeable individuals, and not narcissistic, downright dangerous cons who seek to manipulate the obviously challenged and vulnerable. An alternative model better suited for Caribbean nations could be a hybrid participatory democracy, blending elements of Westminster-style governance with more direct and community-driven democratic practices. This approach respects the region's cultural context and addresses the weaknesses of the current system. What about key features of the hybrid participatory democracy for the Caribbean? Decentralized local governance, strengthen local government bodies, parish councils, municipal corporations, to give communities more control over local issues, establishing mayoralties, with direct election of mayors, local representatives to increase accountability, participatory decision-making, regular community fora, people's assemblies, where citizens can discuss local issues, propose policies, and hold local leaders accountable. Digital platforms for citizen feedback on major policies, allowing for broader participation beyond election periods. You see, proportional representation in Parliament is also something that could form part of this hybrid. Introduce proportional representation for part of the parliamentary seats to ensure minority voices are represented in the House of Assembly, reducing the dominance of two main parties. But constitutional reform is also paramount. Establish a more straightforward process for much needed constitutional amendments with mandatory public consultations. But we first have to make sure all the lolly drain manipulators, all the cons of our society are banished from the corridors of leadership or any chance of becoming a leader in this country again. Because these people will take whatever forum we have and turn it into something that suits them and their level. We need to clarify the separation of powers between the executive, legislature, and judiciary to prevent any form of abuse. We saw between 1995 and 2022 how the judiciary was treated with scant courtesy by that dirtiness. The dirtiness literally isolated that important arm of government. Could you imagine that? Just to have his way. And complaining today, that same national nasty party complaining about things when you putting things in order. They ascribing corruption and all their dirtiness that they did to bring it in disorder and disrepute. They're ascribing those things now to you. When you are a decent person trying to make good. Folks, something wrong, And the high level of dyslexia in this country cause people to, some people believe in them, Believe in them. Folks, we have to strengthen anti-corruption mechanisms. An independent anti-corruption commission with prosecutorial powers, regular public financial disclosures for politicians and top public servants. I couldn't iterate that more. You see, civic education and engagement, comprehensive civic education programs, like a Youth for Democracy program, which I have been actively developing over the years. Regular national awareness campaigns on citizens' rights and responsibilities. Folks, as Professor Patrice Lumumba of Kenya recently said, democracy must be interrogated. Democracy must be investigated and challenged in its present form with a view to developing a model that is suited to our culture as a people. And every time I think of the PRG and how they crashed, that thing just galls me because they were the best people, having grabbed power, set the British Constitution, the colonial constitution aside. They had the best opportunity to develop a nice hybrid form of democracy that could have been the model for the entire Caribbean today. So I always bemoan the point that the People's Revolutionary Government lost out on a grand opportunity to so develop for us, to truly make us a genuine independent Caribbean state in our post-slavery and colonial period. They were too fixed on ideology that they lost their way and ended up absorbing themselves. Grenada and the region are the greatest losers for it. So it's really not our culture to fit ourselves wholesale into the Westminster-style colonial nonsense. Oh no, that is not who we are. There are good parts of that system, mind you, that we need to use. And there are others that just don't fit and must be discarded. Our youthful population need to sit up and pay attention to their true role in the scheme of things so they can change the system and take our civilization forward while making Grenada the leader it used to be. You see, the forest changes, but the monkeys remain the same with the same habits. Nothing changes in our politics except their insatiable greed for power and the privileges that power offers. You see, the privileges that power offers had them behaving in a manner that caused us to look at them as, ooh, look at them today. Look at them today out of office. They look like vagrants, I tell you. They look like people that should never be around the precincts of any power or leadership. They don't even look like people that should be included in a race to the outhouse. But you all blindly go in and follow these people. Folks, I have been around the 70s and the 80s strife and struggles. I've seen loads of people who Grenadians elected time and time again, who in other parts of the world would be completely unelectable. We elect comedians, clowns, cons, people who cannot hold down a job or cannot succeed through an interview, far less to become employed. As one man said, when you elect a comedian and take him or her to the palace becomes a bloody circus. And that is why we had what we had between 1995 and 2022, with its remnants fighting hell hard to see if they can regain power all over again, to continue to eat our food and play the fool. You see, we keep hearing so-called but correctly branded inferior advocates say that we have a beautiful constitution. But what's a beautiful constitution if instead of honoring it, we breach it at every turn? When we elect inferiors, what kind of life do you expect them to give this same so-called beautiful constitution? A life that befits them. You see, Grenadians are attending workshops after workshops, meetings in boardrooms after meetings in boardrooms. Yet for all, we are unmoved and untouched. We say what wonderful meetings and workshops, yet we remain the same, and things remain the same when we are through. When will we change? Are we really ready for change? What kind of Grenadian would you like to become? Folks, are we prepared to do what is right and good because it is right and good? Or are we prepared to join all the naysayers to break down, sabotage, and subvert? Because to resort to standard structure and order would render too many of us totally useless and of no value to the new society. Folks, even if there is divine intervention, Grenada cannot grow with the people whose eyes are bigger than their bellies, who are more interested in consuming imports than actually making things from scratch out of their great quality raw materials on offer, which are allowed to waste year after year. We could mama guy ourselves as the mostly puppy show Christians we love to boast of being. With prayers and fasting, all we want. Nothing is going to change until we change. For the greatness in each and every Grenadian to be allowed to surface and flourish, each and every one of us need to first appreciate that Grenada is a great place indeed. And if Grenada is a great place indeed, we have to step up and become compatible with this great place that Grenada is. And that is precisely why democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. Folks, we have to do something. We have to upgrade. And if we don't upgrade, Crapo will continue to smoke our pipe. Let's take a little break here and we come back with the final segment. Hold tight, folks. Hold tight. We're coming right back.
Want to stay informed, get educated, and feel empowered? Stay tuned where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during EDDIE-FICATION are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
You're tuned to Eddie Frederick, where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. So this is our final segment. It's going to be a little extended, but nonetheless, you don't mind. Folks, welcome back. We have grown accustomed to inferior elements and character, people in general and leadership who are unmoved and untouched. You see, when our leaders are accustomed to corruption and downright dishonesty, they can be seen surrounded by a mob of beneficiaries and dependents who are immersed in entitlement, thus making them either needy, greedy, and vultures. And they come out and give media briefings as if they are heroes. In fact, they even project all their nastiness on the incumbent, who replace them, causing some people to wonder and even second-guess the new leaders. You see, we have so many people in Grenada whose monthly earnings would never be able to buy them a decent regular place of dwelling, even if they lived to 1,000 years. And then we have those who live with extraordinary means, who never won a lottery or received any inheritance. Yet we are programmed to celebrate them as successful citizens. And if they offer themselves to public life, we elect them too. All this time, they are nothing but common thieves. Isn't that a sad reflection? You see, when our leaders are sick or they have their children to deliver, they go to the United States of America. And we are not even angry. There are countless allegations that our politicians between 1995 and 2022, for the most part, collected thousands and even millions in unauthorized funds. And we're not even angry. What do we say? We conclude, if it is true, they're smart. Something had to be wrong with us in truth. Something had to be wrong. They could afford to go away for their medical checkup, but they don't care if they turn the general hospital into a ghetto by sending people who can't read and write. Go down there. Go for a walk. And the people down there have no choice. They have to take you. So when you reach down there, man, work ethic, you have none. You have no standard, you have no nothing. You don't care about people. It's a place for sick people. From the time sick people reach there and they see the first cross eye they get from one of the people walking there, they know they're in the wrong place. They may as well just walk right down to the mortuary, because they ain't going to get good care there. Yet for all, you hear those same dirtinesses talking about the healthcare system today. 23 years of them mangling it. And they're talking about it today as if a 3-year-old administration could correct their ills. Isn't that interesting? And some of you outside there repeating what these nastiness is saying. Folks, you see why I don't want friend? I'm not in the market for friend. Because Grenada is a place that gets you a bit, angry. And as frank as I come, I got to say it. And it's going to offend a lot. And to hell with who it offends, because I don't want to offend. So I have to say it. And you see, older I get, no filters, no worse yet, I didn't born with any, and there's no self I ain't have. You see, when all leaders are sick, as I say, they go away, they travel, they could afford to. And they leave you that voting for them and you like them and you're loyal. And you realize they're leaving you to dead. You see, the current administration recently made what is to be regarded as a major announcement on the upgrading of the hospital facilities and the challenge in the Department of Sense and Intelligence among us, who have absolutely no right participating in democracy at all, are not even moved by it, because they have normalized nonsense, the nonsense they have grown accustomed to over the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part. Could you imagine a place like our main healthcare facility, which requires specialized, caring people and personalities to be operated by, was littered over the years with misfits from a certain impoverished parish in more ways than can be humanly counted, accounting for the abysmally poor service which has been normalized up there? And supporters and followers want to complain to the only 3-year-old administration as if their 23 years of mashing up our healthcare could be fixed in 36 months. Folks, listen to this pointed statement I'm going to conclude with. A real pack of jackasses indeed. Could you imagine that? There's just no logic to that. Youthful Grenadians, the task is yours. So you better choose yourselves now, because these goons ain't choosing you. They're using you. Whether you want to be poor and vulnerable or creative with avenues for true and genuine expression in entrepreneurialism. Hello? If you want to be true Grenadians with profound greatness within you, the tribal mentality you've been groomed to believe is inherent in you must die. Listening to the youthful idealism in a couple of the newly minted so-called caretakers on the other side, one cannot help but give them enough time to voice their intentions, knowing full well that the wisdom of the ages will teach them that they're swinging from the wrong branches. I only pray and trust that they land softly enough to recover. A couple of them appear to be quite well spoken. Their talents may be better realized elsewhere, if only they had paid attention all along, and that they were not just surface lookers. Young people, stop voting for people because they are from your village and you grew up knowing them. Stop voting according to how your mother, father, or guardian votes. That must not be the paramount qualification. Stop voting because you received some galvanize or even wood for wood, or even for a job that you are unsuitable for. Those must not be the justification for your vote. Remember, the voting is private, you know. As a people from this great place called Grenada, which produced the first native woman governor in both the region and the Commonwealth of Nations, first authentic local of the Negroid persuasion to win the Miss World pageant, first progressive revolution in the English-speaking Caribbean, first woman prime minister in the region where she was educated at our secondary school level here at the St. Joseph's Convent, where the first of many great things that helped to shape activities of international proportions have taken place. Young people, you must rethink governance. We have a parliament whose occupants' claim to fame between 95 and 2022, for the most part, was their insatiable appetite for our taxes, so that they can ensure they passed laws hurriedly to divide its gross as loot, and who are in opposition today regularly walking out after being properly paid for once in their lives. While every time you see one in particular on social media, that one eating something from a community pot or walking through the bushes. Walking through the bushes. Some of them from the 1995 to 2022 period, how they became able to appear to be affluent while their constituents survive below the poverty line almost. Ask them. You see, these politicians of the pre-2022 period, they feel we have the memory of mosquitoes. And all of us have the minds of their poor and vulnerable supporters and followers. You see these people and their remnants parading around the precincts of the Mamagai Makeover National Nasty Party, with the puppet leader whose position the old nastiness is coming back for in soon time, as allegedly declared recently while abroad. They have no care about us, the people. And as for you young people, forget that. All they plan to do is to use you again so you could turn 35, 40, 45, and 50, living by your mother and you can't move. That is their legacy. Our civic duty not only demands, but requires that we make demands of all politicians. This is not a time for cowards who die many times before their actual deaths. If you remain cowards today, as many of your parents were in the past, your children and their children will pay the price of your cowardice. You must speak up and out. And like me over the years, bear the consequences. For I have paid a heavy price, and yet by God's grace, I remained consistent for over 40 years, sounding the alarm regardless of the reactions of others. It was Marcus Gill who told us, you know, folks, consistency is the bridge between our vision and its manifestation. Sometimes we have seen, and too often, I might add, where lives have been snuffed out before us and nothing comes of it. A culture of law. What is it? It's not true that we have no idea of what democracy is. No. Of course, the Greeks made us believe that democracy came from them. When it comes to the US, Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest presidents that ever lived, said it was a government of the people, by the people and for the people. That was theirs. What is ours? You see, the democracy that we are fighting up to practice is the neo-colonial version that was bequeathed to us by the inferior colonists. Look at how we still mimic the British. Look at those of former French colonies still mimicking the French. The Portuguese, the Dutch, the Spanish, the German. They're also mimicked. I humbly submit, folks, that until and unless we exorcise the ghost of mimicry, we will go nowhere. Come to our parliament. You hear it and you see it with all the shenanigans of wigs, bibs, gowns, gloves, and nonsense. Worn as badges of honor, garnished with Mr. Speaker, sir. Total rubbish. With our courts, visit our courts. You find that to a lesser extent, judges and clerks, and what have you. Even lawyers, especially dressed as if they're part of a circus. Imagine coming to our leaders who are serving at our pleasure rather, but they want to be referred to as His or Her Excellency. Total nonsense. Honorable, and even Doctor the Right Honorable. And see who you call in Doctor this Right Honorable. We must change all those nonsense. We must behave confused in our everyday walk, because these things are surely not of us. They help to perpetuate our pretense at being who we are not. You, the younger generation, you got to change all this nonsense that shackles us to our miserable past. I recall reading a long time now that the Greeks divided their society into 3 categories. You want to hear the first one? Idiots. Individuals who may have gone to school. They have degrees. Some of them are even professors. Yet they are idiots. They do not make demands of their representatives. They talk nonsense about separation of powers and how we must have respect for elected officials. When there are potholes in the roads where they traverse, what do? They buy SUVs. When there is insecurity, they contract security firms. Those idiots think they are immune, not realizing that they will always be the first targets of the deprived, who their negligence to speak up and take an active role in matters that are likely to affect them contributed and continue to contribute to. Then there are tribalists, who feel that their security and safety lie with their tribesmen. Tribalists are a danger to our country and its democracy. We see it every day with attacks and counterattacks, intrigue and subterfuge and counter-subterfuge. Interestingly, the original bullies who cannot stand up to the well-thought-out and robust responses refer to the responders as social media bullies, with many in between who do not pay attention joining in sympathy for the original bullies who have been decimated. You see, the tribalists are attempting to kill our overall vibes in the nation. But the third category are citizens. We, the conscious people, who look at Grenada and know that Grenada belongs to us and the generations yet to be born, and not just the thieves and cons, many of whom pose as idiots and tribesmen. The citizens, the people, they want good roads, good schools, good health care, good security, good social mores. And when we get leaders who are making every effort to give us just what we deserve, which was never made possible during all of the period 95 to 2022 for the most part, the thieves and cons who stood in the way of these rights for people for that extended period, who were thrown in the road 3 years ago, want to ascribe their subcultural inclination towards them by way of accusing them of thieving and corruption. Could you imagine that? You are asked to be good citizens of Grenada, so you become good citizens of the Caribbean, this hemisphere, and of course, the world. We need to seek to become the progressive people we once were when we had good men and good women representing us. After all, we have it in our DNA. Let the spirit of Julian Fedon, T.A. Marichaud, Tubal Uriah Buzz Butler, Eric Gary, Hilda Bino, Jennifer Hostin, Lord Pitt, Maurice Bishop, and all the progressive men and women of our rich history and heritage prevail upon us. Our young people need to go out there and do what is good and right, in the knowledge that we have had too many men and women in positions of authority who never cared and who behave like if they are larger than life, almost as large as death. Young people, you have to be reminded of Bokassa of the Republic of Central Africa, Jean-Claude Duvalier of Haiti, the Shah of Iran, Ali Bongo of Gabon, Mugabe of Zimbabwe, Eric Gary, Maurice Bishop, and Satan's grandson of Grenada, and all the other larger-than-life dictators of the world. Hello, they are no more. When I think of how much effort I expend to produce what I share here with you week after week, I must say it is easy for me to appreciate that education really is the equalizer indeed. It is true that the mind is the standard of the human being. I believe it was Professor Patrick Lumumba again who said, no matter how tall you are, if your mind does not work well, you are just a tall fool. The same applies if you are short. But if you have a mind, no matter how tall, short, or however else you may look, we will be forced to recognize that here goes a man or woman whose mind speaks for itself. There is a tendency of thinking that if you're a village champion, you are a champion. Hell no. A village champion is not a champion. He is only a champion in his village. I know that positive thinking delivered as frankly as I have been delivering now for the last 40 years has won for me enemy status with people who hate the truth. All I can say to you is that if you listen very carefully to your enemies, you will get to know the truth that your so-called friends will never tell you. And so our young people, 60+% of which our population is made up of, you need to sit up and take note, not to follow the old failures of this here life who precede them. It was John F. Kennedy who said around 1960, a society whose young men and women are in a constant state of slumber will never realize their potential. Our young people must wake up and be fully capable of sending a clear message to the relics in positions of leadership that you cannot continue to mislead and misgovern us. I plan to continue to stand in the gap, looking forward to those days when the transformation of our people that started in June of 2022 will continue and help our people evolve into the forward-thinking nation we deserve for our 50-plus-year-old independent state. Our youth today must see themselves as the current young suckers who will take the place of the old bananas when they die. The future of Grenada is in your hands, folks. No need to gravitate to the organization whose corrupt culture sought to normalize wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, religion without sacrifice, and of course, politics without principle. These obscenities are systemic issues And if our young people do not seek to align their actions with timeless principles, all will be lost for them for sure. These afflictions reflect social and political pitfalls that undermine ethical living and effective leadership, resulting in the instant gratification that was choreographed by the National Nasty Party and continuing with its unethical leadership over the years. The idealism of our youth must be properly placed. If only they would pay attention, they would gravitate towards a resting place where their energies could be honed and nurtured in the right direction, and not become absorbed by manipulators so as to become more of the same in replacement for the cons of our society. The wisdom of the ages will teach them that they're swinging from the wrong branches. I had to repeat that. We can only pray that they land softly. To avoid the chances of them losing their souls, their talents may be better realized elsewhere. Grenadians need to wake up and choose what role they want to play in life going forward. It can either be the goods to be consumed, the menial task workers to be serving all the days of your lives, or do you want to be the owner of the means? We have been turned into goods to be consumed for far too goddamn long. We have been menial task workers for far too long. It is high time we rise up and take our rightful positions as owners of the means in our democracy. We have it in us to be Julian Fedons, Maurice Bishops, the T.A. Marichaud's, the Eric Garys, because they were worth something during their time. Being people of worth and meaning require necessary sacrifices. Stop gravitating towards politics devoid of principles. Take a step back. Do some research into the people you are following or heaped with, and you will realize that in many cases, you are in extremely poor company. Company craving progress without morality. I rest my case. For the greatness in each and every Grenadian to be allowed to surface and flourish, trust me, folks, each and every one of us needs to first appreciate that Grenada is a great place indeed. Democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. I urge you to prepare yourselves with the necessary intelligence so you can come and help reform democracy and present to our table the hybrid that we can present to the world as a version that works for all the people within the construct of our culture. I'm in, I'm out, and I'm gone. I want to thank you for joining. Continue to share. See you next week at the same time, same place for more extraordinary programming. Until then, stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant, stay lifted, but don't ever forget to stay focused. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Just type in my name, Edward or Eddie. No fake names, just Edward or Eddie Frederick. Subscribe, like, and share. And be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them. Folks, have a great week. Do whatever you're doing this week for Grenada. Take wonderful care of your great selves, okay? And all the best. Thanks for joining.
Want to stay informed, get educated, and feel empowered? Stay tuned where information is power.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Need a personal integrity booster shot? Your prescription is right here. Tune in with Eddie Frederick every week. Information is power.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.